Welcome back to another episode of the Career Coffee Club. And this one is going to be exciting, right?
Yeah, I'm really thrilled for this one.
I think this one's going to help a lot of people. It's a topic of conversation at the moment with grad schemes, emerging talent schemes, career changes. And of course, that is 100% what we're going to focus on today. So welcome, Natalie from Amy. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. So I ask everyone this, but how's it feel having a mic shoved in your face?
I mean, I'm ex-performing arts, so it's totally natural, isn't it?
Yeah, break
I'm
out
in my
into
element
song
here.
any minute.
Yeah, I'll get my Whitney Houston on.
So I guess a good place to start, most people know us by now, but just a bit of an intro, if you would, as to who you are, who Amy are, and what you do.
So I'm Natalie Gibbings. I'm the head of talent acquisition for Amy. We are a data and AI consultancy based in central Milton Keynes. So the overarching service of what we do is two parts. So we have our piece of software, which is the Amy Insight Engine.
Okay.
And then we have our services, which are all of our fantastic consultants that specialize in data engineering, data science, software development, Scrum Master, the list goes on. And essentially what we do is we provide data insight and data improvement services to any company that has data, which is pretty much anyone and everyone. So we've had some really exciting clients that we've partnered with, like the likes of the NHS, Anglian Water, Jaguar Land Rover, and yeah, it's that's pretty much us.
Awesome. And one thing I've got to say, the offices are cool, aren't they?
The offices are really cool.
The offices are really cool. The only place I know where you can go in and have a beer, which is your own beer, if I'm correct.
It is our own beer,
but also fly around on a hoverboard, and then a dog comes flying past. It's like just a really, really cool environment.
Your next intake's just going to be bombarded with applicants now that they know that you have your own beer.
Which is named after our head of happiness, Coco, who is actually a border terrier.
Who we met briefly.
We did, but
we weren't important enough for her.
I was going to say she paid no interest to us whatsoever.
It's her world, we just live in it.
Absolutely. So as we kind of said, you mentioned obviously your head of talent. We've also mentioned the emerging talent part, but I'm guessing your role is the scope, right? You do everything from this emerging talent right the way through to senior executives.
Absolutely, yeah. So the full suite. I won't lie, the emerging talent is the most exciting because they're the relationships that we nurture throughout the entire year, and then you get to see them to come to fruition when they're joining in September. Yeah. It's you kind of see the fruits of your labour throughout the year, which is always very exciting.
So what is the difference then? Obviously I mentioned graduate scheme, school leaver and emerging talent.
Yeah.
So can you give us a bit of an overview as to what the difference is between your emerging talent process and what it encompasses?
Yeah, sure. So if I kind of give you the scope of what that includes at Amy specifically, it might be different from business to business. But for us, that's your work experience, internships. It will be level 4 apprenticeship program that we do in software development, a level 6 degree apprenticeship program that we do in data science. And then we also have a graduate scheme that we run. So it's all encompassing of those things.
Cool. So very much a brand where you bring people in and like to watch them grow.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not just to be really clear, that is not just facilitated for school leavers.
No, of course.
The opportunity is there for genuinely anybody that is looking to take their first steps into the tech industry.
And how do you find that? Because obviously you mentioned a couple of words that I think a lot of people are absolutely petrified of nowadays: AI, data, software, these kind of buzzwords. How do you find that? Because it's still a very emerging market.
Yeah.
So do you find a lot of people are knocking on the door going, I don't really know what you do, but it's really exciting?
What I'd probably say is the majority of the applicants that we do have that come through or that are interested in Amy generally will have a huge interest in AI.
Right.
So it could be that they'll be working in a completely different industry, but on the side, they've created an app, or they have gone along to a hackathon, or they have immersed themselves into some type of AI community. And that's generally how they end up hearing about Amy.
So they've got a good understanding of the industry and the tech. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how, obviously, I suppose for people who are listening, when they think about now the application, probably what's going through a lot of people's head is, it's probably an AI driven process then. I mean, just to debunk some myths here.
Yeah.
How does the recruitment selection process work for you, and kind of how much AI do you use, if any?
Sure. So this might come as a surprise because we are an AI company, but myself and my team do it all manually. So I've worked in recruitment for about 15 years now. And whilst I'm still exploring an AI tool that could potentially assist, I certainly would never want it to kind of replace what we do.
Cool.
Because I have definitely come across some absolute superstars that are not always necessarily an obvious choice on paper. Sometimes you just see something, you pick up the phone, you have a conversation, and you meet somebody that's got a ton of potential. So yeah, surprisingly, our entire process is manual. And I mean, we had 896 applications last year. So you can imagine doing that manually. It was a lot of work, but it was absolutely worth it.
How many roles was that?
So we had an intake in September of 6.
Wow.
Whoa.
Because I remember you mentioning this, and I thought you said 60, and then I thought 60 is a lot. Maybe it was 16, but it's not. It was 6.
Yeah, so
okay.
60 is who we invited to the assessment day.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I remember the word 60.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I can talk you through what the process is.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Sure. So the vacancy will go live on our careers page. It has a good overview of what you'll be doing, what the requirements are. You can submit your application. So it will be your CV along with a covering letter. I would say a covering letter it's useful because that's where you can really give a little bit more meat around the bones of why you're specifically interested in Amy and why you're specifically interested in, say, the level 4 software development or the level 6 data science.
Yeah.
So do you look at the cover letter first, or do you look at the CV first?
I tend to look at the CV first, and then I look at the cover letter as an accompaniment.
So the CV has to catch you first.
Yeah.
Before you go to the cover letter.
Yeah.
Or
I'll kind of go there as like a second base if I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So what are we looking for on a CV? That's going to be something that's going to be of great interest. So relevant subjects that have been studied, or some kind of relevancy in the life experience or previous career that you have chosen, where we can see some transferable skills. We're a consultancy. So where you've maybe worked within a team or led a team or collaborated with third parties, these are things that are going to be super transferable.
So the softer skills are as important as the
Absolutely.
physical, I work with X amount of data.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, we can teach the technical skills, but it's actually those. And I know that we refer to them as softer skills, but they're so much more. Yeah, absolutely. So subjects such as, I mean, if you're going down the data science route and you're doing a level 6 degree apprenticeship program, we're going to be wanting to see things like physics, computer science, maths.
Yeah.
The reason being is we're not ones to set anybody up to fail. You really do need to have a basic understanding and competency in those areas of sort of expertise to be able to physically, to do the actual
And the
degree.
fact they've chosen those as subjects, I suppose, means that they've got an interest in it.
Yeah.
Or it's something they want to do.
Absolutely.
Would there be a caveat to that though? If someone, like we said earlier, was maybe a career changer, maybe they've done an English literature, right? Something completely different.
Yeah.
They've done 2 years, but they've also been involved in data, or they're kind of involved in modeling on Excel or something, that then they can go, this is why I'm interested.
Absolutely.
There's still that hook, even though the studies aren't necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. So say, for example, if somebody is studying art, marketing, and
we're going for the ones that are furthest away from physics.
I'm kind of as far away as possible. The likelihood is that if you put them onto a level 6 degree apprenticeship program in data science,
they're going to struggle.
Yeah. I mean, there needs to be a certain level of competency, and we do measure that as the first part of the selection process.
As someone who's not overly involved in apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of give some clarity around level 4, level 6? Are they kind of levels and scopes and salary bands, or are they in depth? What does that mean?
So if you sort of think of it as like an equivalent qualification, so a level 6, it's a degree.
Right.
And then your level 4 is the step before that.
Okay. It's kind of your A levels, if you like.
Yeah.
The traditional apprenticeships that I think most people will know about would take you to level 3, wouldn't it? Which was like a BTEC level 3
equivalent. So level 2 and 3
MVQ type thing.
Do we still do BTECs?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? I've done a BTEC.
Yeah, me too. Mine was speech therapy, though, so totally irrelevant.
You never know.
Yeah.
I done a BTEC in sports therapy, then became a physio, then fell into recruitment. The same as I think everyone else did. The big hole.
I did 2 weeks at Butchery College.
Oh, okay.
How come you win?
You're good at the barbecue then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, imagine that. He hasn't said he can cook it.
Okay, just cut it.
He can cut it. He can't cook it.
I can actually cook it.
Happy day. Well, proof's in the pudding, mate. So, okay. So the level of apprenticeship is really, the higher the number, the higher the level of education that comes with it effectively. So a level 6 is a degree. Level 4 would be your A levels. Level 3 would be like a BTEC college leaver type campaign.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. So other things that we're sort of looking for on the CV are, I think I mentioned it a bit earlier, but communities that they're involved in. Have they attended hackathons? Have they done any additional courses outside of what their school or what their current employer is providing? So for example, one of the successful apprentices that we had that joined us about 1.5 years ago was working as a warehouse administrator. But outside of that, he had done all of these additional boot camps in different languages such as Python, C#, which are all really relevant to our software development level 4 program. So you could really see, even though he's working full time, he's thinking out, he's going above and beyond. Yeah.
That's really interesting as well, isn't it? Because their current job role is not that relevant in terms of technical skills or like a similarity. It's just the fact that they decided to try and better themselves in that area.
But I think that's a pretty important thing to highlight, because I don't know about you guys at Amy, but I'm certainly seeing a trend shifting towards skill-based hiring rather than education or job title-based hiring, which it has been traditionally, which was, if you're a CFO, you're a CFO. And, yes, sure, you've got the strategic involvement, but you have to come from X education and X background. Now I think it is becoming more of, have you got the skills, the mindset, the diverse way of thinking that you can bring ideas to the table, rather than what have you already done?
100%. We're an innovation company. So diversity of thought is absolutely integral in us being able to do what we do. If we had a room full of all of the same people that had been to the same universities, done the same subjects, had studied in the same way, they've got all the same hobbies, we're just going to keep making the same thing over and over again. What we need are different walks of life, different ways of pathways of getting to where they need to, that can provide that diversity of thought that allows us to create something new and exciting.
And it's never been easier to do those types of courses now, has it? Like, to get onto the Python courses and everything. It's very accessible, which means that anyone can take that leap, can't it? And it doesn't necessarily need to be in that space, in the data AI type space, but it can be in anything, like in any walk of life, any type of position. You can take that additional learning outside and potentially get that role that you want. That maybe not astronaut or your fighter pilot type scenario. Sorry, Matt.
I'm still a recruiter.
And
I guess that's an important point to ask this question. Then is you mentioned about having the same people. Something we see with a lot of graduate schemes in particular, I know here we're talking about emerging talent, but if we look on grad schemes, one thing we see a lot of is obviously the type of university or the university that someone's gone to.
Sure.
Someone in my network is at a very good school. She's quite high up in the education ladder. And one question that she had when I said we were going to run this podcast was, is it important? And a lot of kids seem to put a lot of emphasis on coming from a Russell Group or a red brick university.
Yeah.
How important is that to you? And do you think to other grad schemes? Or is it a case of, if you are a graduate or someone who's looking to go to university, think about more the subject? Like, what would be your advice to someone who's leaving school to go to university, Russell Group, Red Brick? Is it a big deciding factor nowadays?
So the best advice I can give, and I recently gave this advice to my cousin that was looking at different courses. She's starting at university in September, but is a lot younger than me, was really look at the journey that you're going to have with the course. So just for a second, remove the name of the university and actually look at the quality of the course that you're going to be having access to. Who are your tutors? What types of experience do they have?
Great point.
What extracurricular activities and communities are they going to have available on campus? What opportunities are they and relationships that they have from a placement point of view that they're going to be able to open up for you during your time at that university? Those are the things that I personally feel are going to be more advantageous to the student as opposed to the name above the university. I sort of think of it in the same way as if you're going to a restaurant. You know, you could go to the fanciest restaurant available, but if you go in, the service is poor, the food is cold, you end up with food poisoning. It doesn't matter that you've been to Nobu or you've been to, somewhere in Mayfair. The reality is that you've not actually got the quality of the experience that you're looking for. So the best advice I can give is focus on the journey that you're going to have and the experience that you're going to have. Don't be afraid to ask those questions that will help to form the comprehensive journey that you're going to have whilst you're studying.
And again, I suppose it's the same for anyone who is listening, who is a student. When you go to uni, you normally have the opportunity to have an interview, ask the questions, you get to meet some tutors. And I think, the best way to look at an interview is it's a two-way conversation.
Absolutely.
Remove the fact that you're being interviewed. I think that's a very past term. And I think actually now we need to start getting people to have the mindset of, well, it's as much my choice to take this job as it is for you to offer it to me. And that should be the same with the uni. So I remember walking into a uni, I won't mention what one, and my mum still laughs about it, that I walked in and I looked at the lights and I went, it's a bit brown in here. That just doesn't look nice. It looked, just didn't make me feel comfortable. Right? And if you can get that feel from the environment, then I knew it wasn't right for me. Others will have that by speaking to the tutors and hearing about their areas of specialism, or hearing about what parts of the course they will or won't do. So to your point, it's probably more important that they interview the unis as much as they get interviewed themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, you've got to be there for 3 years minimum, haven't you? So
and it's expensive. Why are you going to go and exchange that amount of money and not fully understand the service and it is a service, the service and the experience that you're going to receive as a student. So I would say think outside of, I'm going to have this university on my CV and I'm going to have this qualification. What else can they open up for you?
Okay. And that leads me on to my next question really, which was about kind of personal branding of the student. Again, the reason it brings me onto that is because you mentioned about kind of what extracurricular courses are there. And obviously I'm conscious that for some of these guys who are career changers or they've done external courses, your hackathons, that kind of thing, we can totally see that. But for someone who's maybe leaving school and is looking at, okay, what other courses are there? Is that the sort of thing you would look for on a CV? Like, they've been on the student council or they've been on the kind of such and such, sports teams, or what other things can they have that can allow them to create a personal brand without it being experience?
Sure. So key qualities that we look for in a consultant that we're bringing into the business is going to be that teamwork, project management, time management, the ability to deliver on promises and deliver on set goals. So they're more of the interpersonal skills. They're your consultative skills. Then you've obviously got the technical side of it. And that's where your more specialist communities, hackathons, creating an app on the side, whatever that might be, is going to come into play. Now, as an employer, what we've had to do is understand the lens in which our now target audience receive information. So it's not just career insight fairs anymore, or going along and pitching up a tent and waiting for somebody to come along and have a conversation with you. Social media has played a huge part in how individuals receive advice and information. So you've got to think about, how are you explaining that via TikTok, Instagram, your careers page, blogs, podcasts, things like this. We try to invite as many individuals into our office as possible. And in the past, we've partnered with one of our clients, Jaguar Land Rover, where we had 60 local students that came along that could ask these types of questions.
Yeah.
And we had all of our current apprentices there, so they could say, well, what courses were you doing? And is there anything that you would recommend? And we were able to share that information with them. There is an element there of that individual being proactive and reaching out to those communities and to employers. Put yourself out there, and that's where the personal branding piece comes in. And it will feel awkward in the beginning, but actually it's a fantastic skill to nurture and learn. The earlier the better.
So really, I suppose when we think about LinkedIn, to us three sat here, LinkedIn's like
breathing.
Yeah, it's exactly the same, right? Which at the moment with hay fever, I'm not very good at breathing either, by the way. But I think it's fair to say then that the quicker people can get to grips with LinkedIn, the quicker they can start to build that network, join groups like your software groups, your data groups, your AI groups, start to get into that to build that information. They're going to learn how to brand themselves. Right. And they can put on things like, what their subjects are, what their interests are. You can use that about section of your LinkedIn profile, even if you've got no experience, to outline. You could call it a dream at this point. But you could say, this is what my passion is. This is what I'm looking to do. I'm going to university to study this to achieve that. I think that gravitas is something that people don't sometimes appreciate, is when you speak to a student or someone who's leaving school and they start with the end in mind, it gives you you see them in a different light, don't you? I certainly do. When I look at someone, they go, I want to be a CFO, right? Which is a common thing that everyone says at the age of 16. And you go, how? And then they go, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I've thought about this and I've considered that. And you go, okay, fair play. Your path might not take that route. But actually the fact you even understand puts you a foot up on the other people that you're competing with in 15 years to be a CFO, even at that young age.
I think one of the things that I try to drill into, if we're referring solely to school leavers that are creating a LinkedIn profile or anything like that, is it is really great to have that end goal in sight. I think the most important thing is like enjoy the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Be open to change, because I think that that's really important. But it certainly will help to influence the stepping stones that you take. I mean, I'd probably say personal branding could be a whole podcast on its own.
Oh, 100%. Well, if Amelia Sordell's listening, Amelia knocking on the door.
Exactly. But yeah, we're looking for individuals that have been thinking outside the box, and the decisions that they're making have been considered because they are genuinely looking for a career in tech. And then once we sort of kick off the recruitment process, it is quite rigorous, but that's how we can define whether the individual has the competencies to do that.
So what does that look like then? So we've gone through your CV, gone through you've looked at them and you've gone, yep, you're right or you're not. What then happens?
So the first thing that will happen is there will be a phone call. And we will note that this is very informal. It's Nat calling from the Amy Talent team. Thank you for application. Just very quickly need to go through some qualifying questions, because there will be criteria that you need to meet to be eligible for the level 4 and the level 6. And so long as they meet that criteria, we'll then set up a virtual meet via Teams. And that's when we go into a little bit more detail around, talk to me about your journey. Again, we try to remove formalities, because what we don't want to happen is for them to sort of get flustered. But there are some core questions that we will run through. Now,
so the telephone call is unscheduled.
Correct.
Okay. So they should answer the phone if they've applied for something. I know.
And if they
that's
don't,
pretty important.
If they don't, we leave a voicemail and they can come back to us. We also follow up with an email, so they'll get a notification. They can call us back.
Okay.
And what we try to do, because we appreciate some individuals will prefer to plan things in.
Yeah.
So if they don't come back to us, then we send them an email. Once we have scheduled the teams meet, we will then send them a list. We'll give them the option to have the list of questions in preparation. We're not trying to catch anybody out, right? We want individuals to be fully prepared. For example, I'm coming to this podcast today. I've never done a podcast before. We had a rough idea of the types of things that we're going to talk about so that you could get the best out of me. Why would I not do that with my candidate?
Yeah,
Right. I like that.
exactly.
Why would I not create that environment
You want
for
to see
them
the
to
real
show
them.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the nervous one. Yeah.
Exactly. So that is the first thing that happens. And then if we feel that there is that sort of genuine and authentic, they've really had that thought process. This is what I want to do. These are the reasons why I want to do it. Logistically, it works because they do need to be based in Milton Keynes or within at least a 30 to 45 minute commute because you're in 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Is that commitment there and so on and so forth, then we will know whether or not to move to the next stage. The next stage is a technical test that they will need to complete. So it's predominantly mathematical problem solving. And this is where we need to assess whether or not they have the basic foundational understanding to be successful on the level 4, the level 6 program.
So this is a baseline that you've set.
It's a baseline that we've set, and that has been created by 2 of our principal consultants that work in both areas of expertise, who also worked with the college and the university to create the programs that we deliver.
Right, okay, cool.
So it's properly considered.
It's very considered.
And you're not pitching the candidates against each other at this point.
No,
it's a baseline. So everyone who reaches a baseline. If 100 of those candidates hit that baseline, we will invite them into that assessment day. We might split it into 2, but we will, it's not that we're capped. So from that point, that's when we get to the assessment day. And that's where it gets really interesting and fun.
So
the technical is done remotely as well. Okay.
So something that I suppose just crossed my mind. So we've got 800 and how many applications?
96.
And we had 60 come.
Yes.
Is there a particular phase where you see people leave the process?
The assessment day.
Right. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Before you get to the assessment day.
When the assessment day gets introduced and there's sort of, this will be the expectation of the day, I'd probably say at that point might be where they would go, we've had 1 or 2 drop out then and go, this isn't going to work for me.
And what about from your selection process as well? So we've got 830 something, I think, that will lose out, right? So 836 will lose out.
Oh, you've done
right?
maths,
In my head, I've tried, so it's probably wrong to any data people that are listening. Is there a particular stage you see those 800 fall out though? Because we've got 60 come into the assessment day anyway.
Yeah.
Is it like the applications are wrong? Is it that you find that people just don't communicate well enough? Is there like a particular trend that you go, we lose a bulk of people at this phase?
Logistics play a big part into it. If you're based in Edinburgh and you've applied for a degree apprenticeship in Milton Keynes and we need you to be there 5 days a week, but you won't relocate, we've kind of hit a bit of an impasse there, haven't we? I think also a lot of the time it can be some of the answers that we receive in the initial sort of screening calls that we have and screening conversations. They've not necessarily really considered, or they're still thinking about, I might do marketing, I might do social media, but I'm also thinking of AI because I know that there's a lot of money in AI, or I know that there's job security, and that's great, but we're talking about two very different pathways here. That throughout the process that it can be varied, but these are all the different things that will play a part.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with people not sure what they want to do. That's fine. But from Amy's perspective, there's quite a huge investment into that person once they've started, that you want them to see the duration through, don't you? That
it's a huge investment for us, but it's also a huge investment for the individual. And it's a rigorous process that we put these individuals through. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting somebody through that process when they're not fully committed to a particular avenue. I'm not saying that you've got to say, out and out want to be a data scientist, but there certainly has to be some alignment and some consideration that's been put into that process to go, this is the avenue that I want to go down. When you're making that sort of commitment, it's different. I will sit there and have a conversation, invite years 10. We've just had a year 10 that's come in to do their work experience. We've done a career insight with year 10s. More than happy to provide an overview of what's available. But by the time you're making that type of commitment, you should have some kind of understanding around what you want to do.
I was just going to say that. And I think that's a big note to anyone. A big don't attend an interview saying you want a job that isn't aligned to the job you're going for. Because I mean, I see it even with really experienced people, 20 years plus, and you go, why are you applying for this job? Well, I just need some money. Well, I appreciate that and I feel for you, but you've got to understand the business is investing money into hiring you as a X. So when you say you want to be a social media expert, but this is a data and AI organization, there kind of needs to be a reason why you've applied for this particular job. Yeah. So to a degree, I'm not saying that you need to lie, but what I am saying is you need to be sure that you're applying for the right positions in the first place.
You need to do your due diligence on yourself because, you know, you have to align what your needs are to also the culture that you're stepping into. What type of environment am I coming into? And, you know, before when you were sort of mentioning around how do you sort of filter it down? Again, we're a consultancy. So we're not just looking for somebody that has this beautiful mind and is able to create these wonderful codes and thinks that way. We are looking for somebody that isn't maybe necessarily already, and that's totally fine, but can be a consultant.
Right.
Eventually is going to be able to stand in front of a client and be a consultant.
So a consultant is somebody who is liaising with the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Challenging a customer. They're not going to do that on day one.
No.
But there needs to be some sort of potential there.
Yeah. So they're not just sat behind, they're not going to just be sat behind the desk doing the technical aspects. They're going to have to relay that information or get the requirements from the customer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where our assessment day then comes into play. So that's actually broken up into 2 parts. So we invite the individuals in, they arrive, we do a welcome breakfast. Coco's always there to meet and greet them.
Sounds good already. Of
course. We've got music playing. We try to keep it as fun as possible because assessment days are terrifying. Mm-hmm. If I was to go to one now, I'd still be terrified.
Group exercises.
So we try to kind of take the nervousness out of it. We do a bit of a welcome. We tell everybody about what the days. I mean, they've had lots of planning for this. And then the morning is broken up into 2 parts. So we have our, there is another manual test that they will complete. And then we have a group exercise where you're split up into teams and you have to build towers out of spaghetti and marshmallows.
I've actually done that one.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. And look, what we're actually looking for here, that's the consultative.
Diverse thinking.
That's it. That's the consultative side. How are you interacting with your team? Who's taking a lead? Yeah. Are you listening to others? Because you can also be a leader but not listen.
Yeah.
How are you managing that process? Do you know what I mean? And involving everybody along the way. And then the manual side of things, it's a more enhanced version of that technical remote test that we do. They're allowed a calculator, but that's as far as it goes. Then what we do is we break for lunch, and that's where we have a networking time with pizza so they can talk to all of our apprentices. And we also have some more senior individuals, graduates that have joined us, been with us for 7 years, that will kind of mingle with them and they can ask them any questions that they want. And then we let them know who is successful to go through to the afternoon.
Okay. So all right. So
I was going to say they all run off at half time and they don't come back.
So at that point, when we go through to the afternoon, that's presentations and competency-based interviews with our senior leadership team. Okay. So presentations, we give them a brief at least 2 to 3 weeks beforehand, and it's basically talk for 3 minutes, about something that you're passionate about. And last year we had presentations from Pokemon, we had Iron Maiden, We actually had somebody do a performance.
Class.
So he used to do this dance with this big stick. It would normally be set on fire, but obviously it wasn't because we were inside.
Did he check that with you?
He did, yeah. But it was really varied. And the point was, you're taking the pressure away of it being a specific topic and having something regurgitated over and over again. You're giving them the option, talk about something that you love and be as creative as you like. So there was no format. It didn't have to be a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, it can be as interpretive as you like.
How many people do that on AI and data? Because that's what they think you want.
To be fair, we only had a few because we were quite, clear on this is for you to showcase your personality, your ability to deliver something that you're really passionate about. So try to keep it fun and light. And
what a way to remember people, because you obviously remember them by what they presented,
absolutely.
Don't you?
Yeah. We actually hired the Pokemon and the Iron Maiden ones, actually. Yeah.
Forever known as Pokemon.
Yeah.
What, you're telling me the Fire Stick guy didn't get hired?
Almost.
He's out there somewhere.
He is. I'm still in contact with him now.
He's out there setting fire alarms off somewhere.
And then obviously there's the competency-based interview where you can have a bit of one-on-one time with an individual that will essentially be one of your mentors if you were to be successful and join the program.
So other than the obvious, which is you're looking for a bit of teamwork in the task. So each task throughout the day, there will be like an objective of what you're looking to see, right? What would be your advice to anyone who is leaving uni? Because there must be a kind of setup. You must have got this kind of structure from somewhere, right? I'm assuming quite a lot of grad schemes do or emerging talent do very similar structures, right? There's normally an assessment day, there's normally interviews and whatnot. So what advice would you give to people as to how to be successful on an assessment day?
Sure. Preparation is key. So I'm going to sound like I'm making this sound super basic, but I personally would do a recce to where it is, to the location that you're going to on the day. So that you're not going to get flustered on the journey there. Give yourself plenty of time. I would rather arrive an hour early than 10 minutes late. If you have any questions that you're not sure about, that's what the internal talent acquisition team are there for. Pick up the phone, drop them an email. If you're not sure what smart casual is on as a dress code, ask.
Very good point.
That's what we're here for.
It's not going against them.
No.
Because you reached out. If anything, you might remember them a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, I recruit in finance and HR, and I mean, you can't afford to get those wrong in a job, right? So if you're hiring in that space and someone says, can you repeat the question? At least they're asking the questions to fully understand.
Absolutely. Again, we're not setting people up to fail. We're setting up an environment so that they can bring their best version of themselves. So, and that's going to be different for every single individual. Another point I would definitely make is if you require any reasonable adjustments, please do make sure that they are clear. We do ask for them, and if there's any specifics, we make sure that the space and everything is set up. Each stage of the interview is set up for the needs of the individual, but we don't know what we don't know. So again, that's not going to go against you. It's just we need to know that information so we can create the right environment for you to bring your best version of yourself.
As well. And that's great because that's going to be playing on people's minds a lot of the time. But just coming back to the preparation thing as well, is that it's basically eliminating everything that you don't need to think about, isn't it? Other than just being there to do the assessment. So even like laying your clothes out the day before, knowing where your shoes are, and maybe even like just jotting down on your pad the names of the people that you're going to see, where the address, the telephone numbers. So if you get caught in traffic, you've at least got the number that you can call. So there's all those things. It's just think ahead of all the eventualities.
And one thing you touched on was dress code. Now, I'm not expecting us to have like a fashion breakdown here, but one thing I do
today.
I'm not known for my fashion. So, but one thing I would say is, even now, I find it difficult sometimes even just going to a client meeting, because the office is smart casual, but everyone perceives that as different. And then other times people turn up in a suit and a tie as a male, and then you turn around and go, okay, they're now too overdressed. They kind of stand out because they haven't read the brief that says smart casual.
Yeah, I mean,
is that something that can go against someone if you turn up suited and booted? Like, can you go overdressed?
No, yeah. For us, it absolutely wouldn't go against them. I think interpretation and what they feel most comfortable in is what's key. We try to be as detailed as possible, and what I kind of share with them is go onto our careers page, have a look at some of the content that I put out, and have a look and see what we're wearing in those. If you personally feel more comfortable going to an interview suited and booted, fantastic. Turn up in your suit, because again, that's going to allow you to bring your A game. And that's what it's all about. Just know that when you do actually start working for us, we live in Vans and sneakers and jeans and do you know what I mean? That's just who we are. But again, at the same, sometimes when we're going and we're delivering webinars and seminars, you know, we will be a little bit smarter.
Sure. Or if you're going to clients that typically dress smarter, then
you're just sort of reflecting
you reflect, read the room.
Yeah.
And obviously you mentioned a couple of things that you look for in certain tasks. So we've mentioned teamwork, we've mentioned that ability to sometimes lead, communicate.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would advise that most of these assessment days you are looking for?
I'll tell you one thing that really stands out to me, and I remember it vividly. There was one young lady that came along to our assessment day last year, and I think she was a bit overwhelmed. There was a lot going on. It was busy. We had 60 people plus our staff there as well, plus music, and there was a lot going on. And you could kind of see her going into herself a little bit. And I noticed there was another attendee that went over and took her over to get pizza and sat down with her and made an effort with her. We also had another chap that got up, was doing the presentation, and nerves got the better of them. Stage fright kicked in. And it was so amazing to see how many people just were then asking him questions to help him along his way.
I love that.
Nobody wanted to see him fail, even though technically he's their competition. They're things for me that really stand out.
So kind of doing things... So basically be yourself is the key, because those people wouldn't have just gone, well, this is what they want to see, so I'm going to do it, because you can't think that way if it's not your personal way.
They genuinely did not want to see these individuals feel uncomfortable or fail, and it was lovely.
I think as well, and I'm speaking from my own personal, because when you say be yourself, and those people were being themselves, but also sometimes you can be yourself, but then stop yourself from being yourself, can't you? Because I do sometimes where I'll see something and I think I know what I should do, or my instinct is to do something, and sometimes I'll get the nerves or something will get the better of me, and then I'll retreat back, and I haven't done it, and then I'll regret not doing it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that those people, they stepped out and they were their true being and made it, and that was noticed by you, which then obviously gives them a bit of a...
I think it's very hard to fake authenticity.
Authenticity is a great word.
In that environment. I think it's you're absolutely right. You can put a version of yourself on, but I just don't think you can fake authenticity. And, you know, outside of all of the textbook things that you look for, it's those little golden moments that stand out to me as an employer. I'm like,
so just make sure you do it, act on your instincts, I guess, as well, in those circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
So preparation is key, is the bottom line. Prep. Do your research, have a look at the notes given. If you don't know the answers, reach out to the talent teams, ask the questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Not at all.
There's stupid answers. And sometimes you have like decisions that people make just because they didn't ask.
Yeah. I think another thing it's just occurred to me, because we said it, I think on the previous podcast, is about interviews, that go for interviews, because the more interviews you do, the better you'll get at it, and more practice. And it's the same for assessment. I think for anyone, whether it's, you know, school leavers or people returning to work or whatever, is if you're making applications, don't try and decide whether you want the job before you've got the job or it's been offered. So if you have 4 interview requests, then go for the interviews. Don't try and pick the best ones out of the 4 and then just go for that one, because you could have 2 interviews at 2 companies that you were unsure of, but that will give you a massive prep advantage for the next one.
Yeah, I would say specifically for your sort of school leavers or your traditional graduates, that's definitely the case. I think all I would caveat that with is, in the same way that you're considered about the type of roles that you're applying for, be just as considered about the types of organizations you're applying for.
For sure.
Because a data scientist will be a data scientist, but actually, does the company's values align with yours? Is the culture on point? You know, are the types of companies that they're working in spark joy for you and excite you?
What ways can they find that information?
Through those lenses that we mentioned before. So things like Instagram, TikTok, the careers page, their talent acquisition team. We put a lot out there so that, because that generally is what falls within our remit. So I know that if I was looking for my next opportunity, which I will never leave Amy, maybe until I die, but I would be looking at what social value commitments do they have? Because that's something that's super important to me.
And you're looking for keys off of those social media platforms.
Yeah,
and
I want to know what can I
on.
get involved in outside of that process.
Yeah.
And it sort of leads back to what you were saying earlier, Matt, is that an interview process it's a two-way process. Yeah, it's a two-way process. You know, it's down to them to interview us as much as we're interviewing them.
And maybe we're doing this at the wrong stage, but I suppose something that's important is for people to know where to find access to these sort of jobs. Now, obviously, you're going to have them on your Amy Careers page, right? But what other platforms do you kind of advertise on? Where else can people find access to emerging talent positions? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work in partnership with a number of different organizations that will post these opportunities, and they fall into many different categories. So I'll try and provide some pillars, but there might be some there and thereabouts. So the first thing is, if we go down more of the traditional route, we have partnerships and long-standing relationships with all of the local career advisors at schools. We also work in partnership with the Careers Hub, which previously used to be SEMLEP. So we can share those opportunities with the schools that can share them with the relevant year groups and the opportunities, right? We then do have our university tour that we do, and we will share those opportunities with universities that have relevant courses for the graduate programs. We work in close partnership with Milton Keynes College because they are the facilitator for the level 4. So if there are individuals that are wanting to then move on to the level 6 and they're studying other opportunities there, we've got a phenomenal relationship with them. So again, we're making sure that the right people can communicate in the right way to their audience. Outside of that, we have got our careers page, our Instagram page, LinkedIn. And then we work in partnership with places like STEM Returners, Forces Transition Group, CTP. Cool. These are for individuals that are moving on from the forces, because the career changes that come from that background are incredible. And other communities. So we try to really be as broad as to where we share it as possible.
So that diversity is massive, isn't it?
Yeah. So we try to think of everything, but I'm sure I've missed something off there. But,
no, that's fine. I guess that's just important for people to know. Like, it's all well and good saying this is what I'll do when I get there, but it's knowing how to address that and find it in the first place.
Absolutely.
And I think, do again some research if you are listening and you are a school leaver or an emerging talent or someone wanting to change career. Think about where those jobs will be posted. Right.
Specific to you.
Yeah, exactly. Different job boards, different platforms, company websites. I mean, LinkedIn is a really powerful one, isn't it? Because you can literally look up the company, you can find almost every employee. You've got access to so much company information.
And don't be afraid to reach out to companies. So if there's some companies that you hear of, I mean, I would do it with Amy in a heartbeat, just to reach out. I can have a look on the website and LinkedIn and all those places. But if there's nothing there that is suitable for you as a job, just reach out and say, this is what I'm looking for.
I mean, on a weekly basis, I probably have about 50 proactive conversations with individuals that have reached out to me and they've said, this is the type of role I'm looking for at the moment. I know that you don't have it on your website, but could we just have a chat? I'm always happy to do that. Me and my team will always do that.
There's one chap I want to speak to you about, actually. Okay. I will speak to him after. I won't mention his name because I don't know if he's a bit there's someone that needs a little bit of help.
Okay,
And he said that he'd spoken to you.
Oh, cool.
In fact, it was quite bizarre because he said that it was Envisix and Amy were the only two people that had ever got back to him on his career search.
And they remember that. They really do. I mean, I've got candidates that I placed years ago that at the time I didn't have an opportunity for them, and they reached back out to me. They're like, it'd be so great to see you again. I'm like, yeah, why would I not do that?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, for me personally, I got into recruitment because I, hand on heart, genuinely enjoy helping people. And that's an important part of what I do. So unless it's completely irrelevant. And if it is, then I will sort of explain that to the individual and point them in the right direction. Then I'm always happy to have a conversation. All I would, again, caveat that with is make sure it's coming from you, the individual, directly, because it's so powerful. And listen, I get it. If I was a parent, I would want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a lot of power in nurturing and coaching your child to teach them how to do that, how to approach it, how to reach out, how to pull together the right communication. Again, I will always have that conversation, but sometimes I do feel like there's a bit of a missed opportunity for a coaching piece there with
and I think it's fair to say though, Amy have got a first-in-class comms program, right? I mean, a lot of people you speak to, like Oliver said, there's people that we've discussed that have said Amy are the only people that have gone back to them.
Yeah. You will get a response
quite
within
often
24
say,
hours.
Exactly, but it's fair to say that not every business is like that.
No.
So what would your advice be to kind of people who are applying for jobs, not hearing anything? And that could be an emerging talent, that could be a grad scheme, that could be someone who's just applying to a job.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to someone who's just not getting traction, not getting feedback, being ghosted as we refer to it now?
Yeah, so this is going to be very dependent on the type of role that you're applying for, first and foremost. A lot of organisations will host a lot of events. So I would say keep an eye on those and attend those if you can. Connect with the right people. So the hiring manager, the talent acquisition team.
By connect, do you mean on LinkedIn, or do you mean LinkedIn, just like connect with them over the phone? Or
LinkedIn, I think is always really, for me, LinkedIn is kind of the space where you do most of the networking.
Because just on that, with the LinkedIn, that's why it's so important to join the groups, and to network with other people as well, because then you can become a closer connection to the people that you then might want to at the company.
Yeah, because you know what, the opportunity you're applying for might not actually be the right one, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to lead you to the right one. So I would say always think of the bigger picture. You might go to a networking event that particular company is hosting and meet somebody in a different company and you're like, that's where I'm meant to be. I honestly do believe, being ex-agency myself, I did 10 years in agency, that there is a lot of power in being represented by the right recruitment agency. And I appreciate that the market is absolutely saturated, but there are a handful of really fantastic recruitment agencies out there that would have built relationships with those hiring managers in the clients that you're applying for that can sometimes cut away the noise. You know, if you're one of 50 that's applied, but that recruiter has a great relationship with the hiring manager or the head of TA or the head of HR, they will be in a position to go, I've met this person, they are phenomenal. If I could ask you to do anything, give this person 15 minutes of your time, that will happen.
Massive. And that comes back to the groups again, doesn't it? So if you're in a niche group for, I don't know, data analysis or AI or whatever that group is, they're the groups that then you can ask, does anyone have any recommendations for good agencies they've used in the past? You'll obviously get the agencies will come up and recommend themselves. But if you get some of your peers or future peers that recommend someone, then that's an easier route to find that agency.
Something that's really useful as well is recommendations. Like if you are trying to find a recruiter to work with, quite a lot of really good recruiters will have a lot of recommendations. So that's one way. If you are someone who's starting out and you don't know how LinkedIn works, have a look at the recommendations on their page. And remember that a recruiter is a person, not a brand, because you could work for the world's biggest recruiters. And actually the recruitment brand may be amazing or not so amazing, but the actual recruiter you work with,
you want the recommendation
you need
to the individual as opposed to the company.
The relationship's with an individual, not a company.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking of all the things that I do when I have those sort of speculative emails or reach outs that I get. What's the advice that I give them? And that's predominantly it, is just promote yourself as the best as you can, put yourself amongst the right people that might not be able to open up an immediate opportunity for you, but might be able to open up a conversation with the right person.
And ask for the help sometimes
Work
as well.
smart,
so ask your connections. Does anyone know anything, or any company that's looking, or ask for the help.
But that is a good point though, isn't it? Because when me and you work together, you quite often say to me, why this person? What do you like about this person? And we have a conversation about the conversation I've had with people that then comes back. And it's not that I'm swaying or influencing your decision, but I'm just giving you the person, not just a bit of paper.
Yes.
And we're kind of giving you that dimension of going, this is why this person's right. Yeah, exactly. And we're explaining why this person's right.
Yeah.
So by connecting with recruiters, by connecting with the right people, the right networks, you will get more success.
I don't want to be sold the candidate. I just want to be told everything about the candidate and why they're right for the role. If that makes sense. I once terms are agreed, I sort of say to the agencies I work with that you don't need to sell to me anymore. We've agreed on the partnership. Now we move forward, and now it's an open, honest. We'll work together to get the best solution.
It's a collaboration, and the truth of the fact is, if you have a true partnership, your recruitment partner will know your business inside and out. So they will hire for you as if they're hiring for them.
You've got to allow them that as well. You do. You've got to let them in.
It's a trusting partnership. So that's the sort of advice I would give to individuals that are looking for opportunities.
So I think we're moving towards a wrap up. But I suppose a couple of things that we tend to wrap up with. So the first one, and this is a question to get your thoughts.
Okay.
Green banner on LinkedIn.
What is this whole discussion about green banners? Yes, do it.
I know. I know.
Yes.
What discussion? This is exactly our point. So, but the reason we bring this up is because I see it every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
I'm seeing people who are,
and people are saying, I'm desperate for work. I've got 2 months rent left, real life, genuine stories. And then they're going, I've been told not to use the green banner. Who is advising these people not to put a green banner on?
So I would split that into two different things. So green banner, for me personally, I think I don't have a problem with that at all. In fact, it's great. Makes my life much easier because then I know that you're open to work, so I can reach out to you.
Right. So you use it. Like you would not prioritize, but if you see it, you go, I know this person's open to work. Great, I'll reach out.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's easy.
Cool. I don't feel that there is a sort of stigma attached to it at all. That's just me personally.
Cool.
When it comes to the 2 months rent, and first of all, I want to caveat this again. It's very brave to share that. Speaking from personal experience, I mean, when the pandemic hit, I went from being a director of a recruitment agency to cleaning offices. So you kind of do what you got to do. But I think there's a way in sharing that, what's the outcome that you want? Are you connecting in the right way?
Are you doing the right things?
Yeah, exactly.
There's two things, isn't there? It can help them because people will feel sorry for them and share and give advice and so on. But whether they're their target audience, or does it add any value to any application that they do, or any hiring manager looking at their, I don't think it
could step into some hot water, but all I would say is authenticity in everything that you do is key. And so long as you're staying true to yourself and you're being authentic, then do you.
Relevant is the other thing. Like applying for a job because you're in a certain situation financially doesn't mean it's the right thing. So you can apply for 500 jobs, but you're still only going to be relevant for the ones of the skill set that you match. And that's where you're going to have more luck. But again, we're diverse.
So green banner is a definite yes.
So green banner, it's a no-brainer. It's a tool there to help you assist to be more, identifiable on what is a massive platform.
Because the flip is most businesses use the hiring banner.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why businesses can use the hiring banner and people can't use the green banner because it looks...
Well, we said on another podcast, didn't we, that you want to sell your car, but you don't want to look desperate, so you don't advertise it. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
Crazy.
I think that what we do need to, and again, this could be an entirely new podcast.
Yeah, the Green Banner podcast.
Yeah, I think that it's where it stems from. And what you can see a lot of, and what I certainly see a lot of on LinkedIn, is clickbait.
Yeah.
So it can be starting up a conversation about, oh, the green banner, this, the green banner, that. But actually, it's more clickbait.
It's about getting views. Yeah.
So my personal view, put your green banner up if you're open to work and be authentic in the story that you're telling.
Good work.
Right.
3 do's and 3 don'ts of people who would apply to an emerging talent scheme or anything like that.
So top 3 do's.
Yeah.
Research the company and make sure it aligns to what you're looking for from an employer that is essentially going to kickstart a whole new journey for you.
Yep.
Second, do your due diligence on the role and be really committed to the pathway that you're taking. If you're going to invest 2 years in a level 4 qualification or 3 to 4 years in a degree apprenticeship where you're working full time and studying full time, make sure this is definitely what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the third is, I would say, try to enjoy the journey.
Okay.
I always lead back to this, is I appreciate it can be very, very, very stressful. There's a lot of pressure coming left, right, and center. But if you do something that you love and you are passionate about it and you enjoy the steps that you're taking to get to where you want to be, you will be successful. And it will happen organically. So they would sort of be my do's.
Now for the don'ts.
Don'ts. Don't be generic.
Okay.
Because you will end up being one of many. And the reality of it is, you as a person are not generic. You are your own person. So really allow that to shine through.
You mean like on an application, on your personal branding, everything, yeah? Be you.
Yeah. Be you. Be unapologetically you.
Cool.
I guess the same in assessments as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's people's personalities that will make you stand out. Second don't is step into something with so much commitment when you're still undecided.
Okay.
If it means you having a minute, and whether that minute is an entire minute or an entire year, don't go and make such a huge commitment without having done your due diligence.
Okay.
And be sure that even if it's not, I want to be a data scientist, just be sure that it's something that you're super interested in and that you have the capabilities to do. And then the third don't would be, oh gosh, that's a tough one. I can't think of a third. I don't want to say one just for the sake of it.
No, that's fine. Good. Well, yeah, you said don't just jump in, so I like it.
Yeah.
So speaking of jumping in, quick fire questions.
Oh gosh.
Okay. So obviously, pick one. Not you.
Oh.
I've got to pick one.
Just pick one of the 2.
Okay.
Oh yeah, multiple choice.
Multiple choice. You reading them or am I?
I'll do it, shall I?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay.
Education or experience?
Both.
Can only pick one. It wasn't education, experience, or both.
But, you know, our program encourages people that have life experience and career changes, as well as individuals that are leaving from education. So
Right, we'll let you off this once.
Resume or CV or video?
I would say, oh God, you guys have put me on. I would say both again, but I think for more traditional, you could go CV because a lot of the time we're going to follow up with a virtual meet and then an in-person meet anyway.
Cool.
Okay. 2-stage or 3-stage process?
I will make the interview process as short as possible.
Okay.
So if we can do it in 2, I'll do it in 2.
Cool.
Photo on CV or no photo?
Irrelevant.
Is it?
It doesn't really make any difference
Either
to
way.
me. No.
Interesting.
Coffee or tea?
I don't drink either, but I have a hot chocolate.
I don't think we've got one of them.
We haven't got one, have we? All right, McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, thanks for popping on. I'm sure if
thank you.
Anyone's got any questions that we've kind of touched on, be sure to visit Amy's website. Amy spelled A-I.
I.
AIIMI.
Yeah.
We'll put that on any post that we kind of put out there. So make sure you do have a look at the site and have a look at what they do. We really appreciate you coming on. And if anyone's got any questions that you want some answers to, you're not sure, or feel free to reach out to Oliver and I. And obviously we can get Natalie's thoughts and answers and come back to you if needed.
Cool.
But other than that, we hope you enjoyed the session. It's been a longish one, but very informative.
I think we could have gone on for forever and lots of different avenues as well. So maybe there's future.
Definitely, but very, very informative. And I hope that it helps a lot of people who are either changing careers, leaving school, leaving university. But as we say, do come back to us if there's any questions that you have.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in.